It had been a day of things going wrong. Katie found out that you can't go very far when your sweater is caught on the dresser drawer. Orbie learned that when you race around a bed, you should keep your feet away from the bed legs or your toes could get hurt. And they both discovered that as much as you love your best friend, it's no fun to slam right into them. Actually, bumping into Katie and stubbing his toe had started Orbie's day off on the wrong foot. He felt a little bit crabby, grouchy, and not at all like being very nice. Now, feeling crabby didn't happen to Orbie very often, and it really bothered him. In fact, I have to tell you, everything really bothered Orbie when he was in a grouchy mood. It was late afternoon. Katie was playing dress-up and putting makeup on as she sat in her bed. Orbie wanted to play by himself, so he was laying out a huge airport on the floor. Orbie had trucks and planes and little people all over the floor. He was flying planes up in the air and around the room, over Katie's head and down to the airport again. And because Orbie was feeling grouchy, playing alone was a good idea. And that's why, when the next thing happened, Orbie was so upset. You see, Katie was dressed in a long, sparkly dress with a big floppy hat. She was putting lipstick on her lips with the help of a little mirror from her flashy purse. With lipstick on, Katie turned around and jumped off the bed. She jumped off the bed and right onto one of Orbie's planes. Actually, Katie did hurt her foot, but worse than that, the wing fell right off the plane. Orbie, who was over by the window, turned to see what had happened. He looked at Katie, and although it didn't make any sense to ever do it to your best friend, he shouted at her. He burbled in a loud and angry voice that she had broken his plane, and now he didn't like her very much anymore. Katie, holding her foot, felt bad about the plane. She was so surprised at Orbie's reaction, though. She hadn't meant to break it. He was so furious. Katie felt awful. She said she was sorry and ran right out of the room. And Orbie was so angry, he chased Katie down the hall, yelling that he was going to tell Mom and Dad. At the bottom of the stairs, Katie ran right into Dad. Dad caught her and asked her what was wrong. Orbie turned and charged right back into Katie's room and slammed the door. Now, I'm sure the minute Orbie was in her room, he realized he'd done the wrong thing. But I have to tell you, right here, he did nothing about it, nothing at all. He just picked up his broken plane and looked at it. The wing had come right off. He was so angry, he stamped his feet on the floor. He was really angry. And then he began to cry. I should say that every now and then a toy gets broken, and when Orbie is himself, he handles a broken toy like anyone else. And when someone else says they're sorry, Orbie accepts the apology like anyone else. However, today, he was so grouchy, he just couldn't. And strangely, Orbie didn't even like the plane all that much. When Dad heard all the stamping upstairs, he took Katie by the hand and went up. Katie didn't really want to go because Orbie was so angry. But Dad said it was all right. They opened the door to find Orbie leaning on Katie's bed crying. Dad said his name. Orbie shrugged his shoulders. He felt uncomfortable. I think it was because he knew somewhere inside of him that he had not acted appropriately. When Dad asked them to explain what had happened, Orbie saw Katie's little chin quiver as she explained it. She had on the long dress and hadn't seen the plane when she jumped off the bed. Again, she told Orbie how sorry she was. Orbie looked at the plane. He felt like saying it was his very favorite, and Katie should never have jumped off the bed when she knew all the planes were down there. Instead, he threw the plane on the bed and started to cry some more. Katie was finding it hard to feel sorry for Orbie because he had been so mean to her. But it was never good to see a friend cry. She patted his shoulder. Dad was a little annoyed with Orbie for being so mean. Orbie sniffled. Dad asked if Katie had apologized. Orbie nodded his head. Then Dad asked if he thought Katie meant to jump on top of his plane. Orbie shook his head. He knew she hadn't meant to do it. Dad sat down carefully in the middle of the airport and asked Katie and Orbie to sit with him. He told Orbie good friends take care of each other, and it had been smart of Orbie to know he was too cranky to play with anyone today. But when an accident happens, it's important to put the inside brakes on. Orbie burbled that he didn't have any inside brakes. Dad lifted his head up and looked right into his eyes. Everybody has inside brakes in their head and their heart. To put them on, you have to stop and think. Ask yourself if the other person wanted to make you feel angry, or did the person just make a mistake? And the real reason you feel so angry is because you're grouchy. If it's because you're grouchy, then you have to put on your inside brakes. Then take a minute and count all the way up to 5. At 5, you look at the person and say, "It's okay. I know you didn't mean to do it." The strangest thing will happen. All of a sudden, you'll feel better. You'll feel better because you didn't make anyone feel bad because of your grouchy mood. Orbie smiled. He took Katie's hand, counted to 5, and burbled, "It's okay. I know that you didn't mean to do it." Orbie could feel his brakes working. The grouchiness was being replaced by a thought. Katie was his very best friend on the whole planet. And at last she was smiling. And guess what? Katie was thinking the very same thing. Orbie asked if Katie felt like taking a plane ride, and the two were friends again. So I hope if you ever wake up grouchy, you'll remember your inside brakes and count to 5. You will be amazed at how much better you feel. All your friends and family will be really proud of you.